Vi halvveis igjennom, men at dere kunne komme hit i dag. Det skal gå på engelsk, men jeg bare et par opplysninger før Gisle skal si noe, og så da til Dave. Hvorfor vi her, det fordi han som sitter bakerst her, Dave Bandy, som mange kjenner. Han skrev til meg for noen måneder siden og sa at vi på vei rundt i Norden. Har dere tid til 14. og få besøk av oss? Thank you, Dave, for giving us this chance to meet both you and Dave. So, before we start, just a few words from Gisle. Gisle will be playing doubles today. He won. So, the big hand for Gisle. Okay, Gisle, a few words, then giving, and then it's Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, in English, as we said, we have had we have tried various programs or seminars during the NM. This one is by far the most popular. I think you have something to do with it. And you did. I think personally that college tennis is it's a fantastic opportunity. In Norway, I think many people have heard a lot about it. Anyone here played college tennis? Maybe no one? You have? Yeah? No?
I have, yes.
Then you know everything about it. But we feel that bringing this up, talking about it, we think it's something we need to talk more about. It's different pathways, I think, to go all the way to the pros and become top 10 if that's the goal. You can do that through college tennis, or you can try to do it directly. Going through college is of course a fantastic opportunity. It's I would also call it a reward for putting down hours, and for your parents also quite a lot of money. It's not the cheapest of sports, but still, and college tennis you will probably get back to not only talking about Harvard, it's various divisions and levels where scholarships are available. So I'm really happy to have, Dave, you are, I think, quite well known in the Dave, filling a hole in Norwegian tennis, bringing kids to camps, and bringing our players out to Tennis Europe and ITFs, doing a great job there. And I'm also glad to meet you, Dave. Your school is I would say, quite well known, not only in Norway.
That's good for me.
I think many people and young people in Norway dream about Harvard, heard about Harvard. So we're really excited to hear what you have to tell us about college tennis in general. And looking very much forward to it.
Great. Thank you very much for having me, and Dave, thank you for being there. Incentive to come over here. I've really been looking forward to this. I've been coaching now. I'll be starting my 41st year at Harvard. I had a chance to land in my dream job very soon after graduation. I was in line to become a doctor, and believe that there are many more people alive today because I chose to become a coach. I've been involved in a lot of the national level committees. I know how difficult it is to make change in tennis. And I know how hard all of you work to have your sons and daughters have opportunities to pursue this sport. It's a remarkable sport. It is truly a game of a lifetime. And the rewards are still ahead of you if you decide to go to college. We know statistically that the average age of getting in the top 100 on the men's is about 26, 27 now. So that means you have 4 years after you graduate from college. So the idea of sending kids out early when they're 17 and not physically developed, when they could be competing in an environment where they have coaching, good facilities, work on mental health, sports psychology, physical training. There are tremendous advantages to doing it, and it's nowhere near as lonely as it is on the tour. How many of you play ITF events? Anybody playing ITF? Okay. So the ITF is great at the top level, but you know when you fly on an airline, you get loyalty points for it. The ITF is like that. You have to play a certain number of tournaments in order to actually see how good you are. All over the world, we have people trying to establish how good they are, and I'm going to introduce a little bit something that I'm very excited about, and I think that will be very helpful to you in finding out what the college pathway is like and how to find the right college. I also want to make sure that at any time people feel free to raise their hand, ask a question. If I can go deeper into something without going off track on something, I'm happy to do. I'm here to serve you and your interests. I started off just generically finding the right program. You need to understand in college there are different divisions. The ones that you hear most about, the Stanfords, the USCs, Georgia, Division I, the top schools with the most money, and athletics are greatly valued. At a lot of them, we have a phrase in English called the tail wagging the dog. In some cases, the academics are almost forgiven in order to play there. So a very good level player can get a scholarship and do well. On the men's side, it's even more competitive because the men have a maximum of 4.5 scholarships available. On the women's side, they have 8 full rides each time. So there are many more scholarships available for women than there are for men. And it's caused a huge widening of the field, many more competitive men's teams because those scholarships, if I'm going to be the last player at USC, I may go elsewhere and get a full scholarship somewhere else. So Division II is they still offer scholarships. There are fewer rules for recruiting. The Division I rules are quite rigorous as far as being an amateur. There's some relaxation of those rules now. You can now take up to $10,000 worth of prize money before coming to college, which is, to me, you know how much it costs you to play in tennis right now. $10,000 doesn't get you very far. Division III is often associated with a very high level of academic admissions requirements, very good programs. There, Division III is probably where Division I was 30 years ago. Very high level of players in there. They have more restrictions on the length of the season, the number of hours you can practice, but very fine teams. And then JC is a junior college. It's a 2-year college. They'll often go on to a 4-year college transfer, and NAIA is another division. So really there's a place for virtually everybody who has gotten to a certain level in tennis. That's the exciting part of it. Don't give it up just because you think you can't, you're not going to be a pro. College admission in the Ivy League, sort of this comes up as a question. The Ivy Leagues don't award scholarships, they award financial aid, but it's entirely based on need. So if you have need, and if you're wealthy, and your son is the very highest academic player to get into Harvard, you still have to pay. And it's stiff. On the other hand, it's one of the greatest financial aid systems anywhere. I think Harvard alumni contribute $160 million a year to make it possible for people from anywhere in the world to attend Harvard if they're good enough to get in. Our admissions is what's called need blind. You don't pay any attention whether you can pay the bill or not. We see if you're good enough to get in, and then Harvard figures out a way to make it affordable for you and your family. As one father said to me, Harvard's very smart about it. They make it just possible for me to do it, and I don't want to turn it down, but they don't make it easy. The academic index is a combination of the SAT score. There are 2 main testing that you'll have to do, SATs and the ACTs. Both are good. The academic index, we don't have to go a lot into it, but know that you'll be evaluated on your class rank, how you've done in your high school level preparation, how you've done with your SATs or ACTs, and then also your subject test, the SAT subject test in a specific, you might take it in physics or chemistry or math, that can also bring your level up. The usual challenge is getting a high enough level in the English that these colleges are comfortable enough that you will be comfortable doing reading. But there are many international players that are coming. I don't really think we have to get into much further than that, but I'm happy to answer individual questions later. How will I know where I can play? That's the really interesting thing. College tennis has the second highest transfer rate next to football in the United States. We believe that up until the last few years, people have not had a way to judge, could I play on that team? Now, something's been developed that college coaches, hundreds of college coaches are using every day to judge the level of a player from Moscow, Melbourne, Miami, Minneapolis, all the same metrics. So every week, the Universal Tennis Rating collects results from the ATP Tour, the WTA Tour, the ITF Juniors and Futures, Tennis Europe, Tennis Canada, British Lawn Tennis Association. More and more countries are coming on board because the more domestic results that Universal Tennis gets from your country, from your federation, the more accurately your players are represented to college coaches. The nice part about this is that it also is a huge tool for families looking at where could my son or daughter play. You're able to look up the level of every single player on my team, every single player on Stanford, every single player on a Princeton team. So it's been a tool that's never existed before, and we believe that this is going to become the equivalent of a golf handicap. Everywhere you go in the world, you play a golf handicap. Tennis players have lacked this, and you know how important it is when you go through a tournament and they seed you according to how many points you've won. Lots of the tournament matches are 6-love, 6-1 in the first rounds, and then the two players play each other at the end of a tournament. Along the way, the players that got discouraged by being beaten badly, playing people that were far too far above their level, they often go and play another sport. And the good players that have had to go through a lot of matches, 6-1, 6-love, what happens? They go to sleep. It's hard to restart your game. All learning experts tell us that the more often you struggle at or near your level, the faster you improve, whether you're a musician or a tennis player. This is an interesting scale. It's a 16.50 scale where Roger Federer, Nadal are up at the top there, about 16.37, something like that. The men and women are on the same scale. It's hard to believe, but it works. Venus and Serena Azarenka, the highest point they can reach is 13.50. This is not anything against women. It's because in many parts of the world, women train with men. In fact, are able to get better by training with men. We found that in areas that don't have a critical density of players at a certain level, boys and girls often compete with each other. And this has been very successful in saving families money. So I can go into that more. But essentially, you'll notice that this is intentionally portrayed as a very steep slope. At the beginning level, when the kids are coming in and they're playing with the low pressure balls, they move through those areas quickly. We call them a quick start. It's a red, orange, green ball. When they go through the first 3 levels, essentially at level 1, they can just hit a few serves in, a few forehands in, and they can keep score. As you get up to the higher level, the juniors move up and they begin to be at that level where the women futures, the men futures up higher, and up at the top it's like scaling an icy cliff. It's very hard to do. But it is aspirational to think of yourself in a level rather than a ranking. We find when we talk to learning experts that being ranked in a certain number 212 is a disincentive for trying. We find that being in a rating level, even if you're with 1,000 other players, you understand that your level is good enough, and if you keep working on skills, you'll get better at it. So we'll get more into that later. Advantages of college tennis, an opportunity for great education, great experience, and the fun and excitement of playing for a team. This actually is our team after we just were on the edge of winning a big match. You can see everybody's there. The guy on the left is, I think he's asleep. He's not paying attention. But the rest of the guys are going crazy with it. It's a lot of fun. And then this is the celebration that happens afterwards. There's really nothing like it. Even when pros go on the tour, afterwards, no matter how much success they have, they often say college tennis was the best part of my experience. Sometimes, very seldom, a star is born. You may recognize him when he still had hair. Does anybody know who this is? James Blake. So James Blake came to Harvard as a very pencil-thin 17-year-old, and he went to number 4 in the world. Honestly, he would have been a champion anywhere. We hope that we helped him, but he would have been a champion anywhere. He just kept getting better. And it was the college environment that allowed him to get better. A little bit about Harvard, just since I'm here. Great facilities. This is an 18-court outdoor facility with a pavilion, stadium seating for the 6 varsity courts. Is there something else? I personally think that college tennis is about character development. All the good things we get, fun, excitement, improvement, they're all great, but very few people are going to turn into pros. Our job is to turn all of the people that play, put in those thousands of hours on, we turn them into championship human beings, because as a parent, you don't have any control whether your son or daughter gets to be really great in tennis, but you do have control over what kind of aspirations they have, what kind of habits you introduce, what does your family represent. We try to continue that process. We talk about integrity over reputation. Reputation, you know what happens when people get on Facebook and they put their pictures up? They follow you everywhere now. You have to be very careful with your reputation, but your integrity is who you are inside. That, I believe, is what parents are trying to stress with their children. Significance over success. I actually talked to Novak Djokovic last fall. And I said, Novak, you've achieved success beyond anything that you ever could have imagined. And I said, what's important now? He said, to do something that's significant. That's why he believes in this universal tennis. He would like it to be possible for people all over the world to have an experience that they wouldn't have had otherwise in a more affordable sport. Significance is what we really like to do. We have a lot of banners on our walls at Harvard. We've won a lot of championships. But in the end, I will be judged by what kind of young men I helped come to Harvard. That's what's important to me. And when you're developing virtues, we talk about resume virtues. When you're young, you think about what's going to make me look good in terms of getting a job. When you attend someone's funeral, you listen to what was really important about that person. We try to develop those aspects while they're going through the hard, frustrating, grinding part of getting tossed on their butts, failing, succeeding. We try to always emphasize this is your character is how you treat people. If we choose people with character, we find people who make good decisions about academic integrity. They make good decisions in how they treat referees. On the men's side, they make good decisions about how they treat young ladies. Honesty. We don't have to have a lot of rules if we get that right. And I believe that that's what you're trying to do as parents. I always have a little bit of advice for parents. Junior players, you may not want to hear this, because you may get away with a few things. Abraham Lincoln, this is not the president, the guy who's running for president in the United States right now, Donald Trump. This is another very successful American president. Worst thing we can do for those we love are the things that they can and should do for themselves. So, parents, how many parents do you have here? A junior player? Okay. You know that the things you do when they're age 14 are the things you don't do for them when they're 17? Does everybody understand that? Age-appropriate challenges. My wife is a clinical psychologist. So, do's and don'ts of parenting a tennis player. Okay, here we go. Being a member of a team is like being a contributing member of a family. We make our players take out the trash. I hope you as parents are making them take out the trash. Age-appropriate challenges, what you do for them at 14, you don't do when they're 17. I had a captain who took our whole team out to dinner after he'd been out of Harvard for 25 years. My assistant is named Andrew. He stopped in the middle of dinner and took us out and said, I need to tell you something about your coaches. This is where Dave and Andrew really failed you. So if you say that to a team, they're all ears. They can't wait to hear what we did wrong. Said the first thing they did is they treated you too fairly. And the day you walk out of college, you'll understand that life is not fair. So, although you would like to be concerned with finding a coach who is fair, you want to strengthen your sons and daughters for handling things that will come up. Life is not fair. Don't carry your son or daughter's bags. Think about that. Don't arrange practice partners for them. And the last part is don't write to the coaches for them. Is that clear? That's, as soon as I get a letter from a parent, I try to figure out politely how to say, it's your son who will be applying, it's your son I will be coaching, it is your son who's going to have to learn to speak for himself. Please don't do their struggling for them. When they're in college, don't fight their battles for them. Struggle develops muscles. You brought them up to be strong and independent. And if that isn't the way you brought them up, don't rent out their room, because they're going to be living with you when they're 28. Okay. A few more views of Harvard, just to tantalize you a little bit about Harvard. It's a pretty special place. And I do want to impress you while I'm here. Beautiful sunset here over our tennis center. Night football game. The Harvard Stadium was built in 1904. It was the first major stadium built in the United States. And this is the Charles River that goes right down the middle of the campus, goes right out to the ocean. Beautiful river that people bike along. Different views of the river. This is sunset again down in our athletic area. Pretty view of the river. And that's it. And I'm happy to answer some questions. And then I'd like to spend a little time going into, help you understand a little bit more about this universal tennis rating. So before we go on, how about questions that come up? So I really make sure we leave time for this.
How many ACT tests do they need to take? You have the SATs and you have the ACTs.
They don't have to take both. You just have to take one of them.
Okay.
Some people do better on the ACTs than the SATs. So sometimes people take an SAT and then say, I'm not sure that didn't quite work. They try an ACT. You can take it as many times as you want, and
So you need to just take one ACT?
you can do it once, generally.
Yeah.
Even American students take it more than once, at least twice, sometimes 3 times.
But both scores show up, don't they? Both scores show
They
up?
will show up, but Harvard, for instance, would only look at your best score.
Okay.
It's called super scoring. So if you get a high of 610 on your verbal, and then another time you get a 600, they'll take your highest one each time. So it's really like you sort of can't get worse at it.
Okay.
So that it's nice. And often we have people simply show that I may do better in classroom, but I don't do well in these tests. If someone has really shown the effort to do it, that actually speaks well on their behalf. Any other questions? But they'll come up. Let me get this other one on. Sorry for this. Do we have any experts in PowerPoint here? Trying to get it display in shape.
Yes.